India's great support. In Vellabhaya, in Ur province, a self-effacing Sinhalese farmer harvested his paddy crop raised during the Yalas cultivation season, that's May to August. He said he has received an average yield this time thanks to the supply of chemical fertilizers from India. In the preceding Maha season, September to March, this small-scale farmer suffered a 50% crop loss because the Sri Lankan government decided to migrate to organic farming abruptly. India has assisted with nearly 4 billion to its neighbor. However, there is a strong case for greater Indian engagement with Sri Lanka, which is still struggling to tackle the crisis. Such attention need to be confined to liberal loans. It could also include sharing technical expertise or knowledge or helping the country upgrade skills in different areas of economic activity. Lankan envoy says India anchors regional security. Acknowledging India's efforts to help Sri Lanka cope with its worst economic crisis, Murugadoda, our High Commissioner in India, said in an interview that New Delhi would continue to play a crucial role in aiding the island nation's recovery, including investments and assistance with bridging finance till Colombo finalizes a bailout package with the International Monetary Fund. China asked Sri Lanka to discuss debt issues with it as suggested by it earlier. On August 30, 2022, Director General of the Department of Asian Affairs of the Foreign Ministry Liu Zinzong met the ambassador of Sri Lanka to China, Dr. Palita Kohona. The two sides had a cordial and friendly exchange of views on China-Sri Lanka relationships and international and regional issues of common concern. Liu Zinzong said that in recent days, Mr. Ambassador frequently participated in activities and gave interviews to the media, actively promoting exchanges and cooperations between China and Sri Lanka in various fields, publicly refuted the so-called China debt trap claim, and safeguarded and promoted China-Sri Lanka relations and the traditional friendship. IMF gives Lanka a 4-year extended fund facility and a US $2.9 billion loan. Colombo, September 1st, an IMF mission led by Peter Breyer and Masahiro Nazaki visited Colombo from August 24th to September 1st, 2022 to continue discussions on IMF support for Sri Lanka and authorities' comprehensive economic reform program. At the end of the mission, Mrs. Brewer and Nozaki issued the following statement. The Sri Lankan authorities and the IMF team have reached a staff-level agreement to support authorities' economic adjustment and reform policies with a new 48-month extended fund facility or EFF with a requested access of about SDR 2.2 billion equivalent to US 2.9 billion. The new EFF arrangement will support Sri Lanka's program to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability while safeguarding financial stability, reducing corruption, vulnerabilities and unlocking Sri Lanka's growth potential, the IMF said in a statement. Against this backdrop, the authorities' program, supported by the fund, would aim to stabilize the economy, protect the livelihood of Sri Lankan people, and prepare the ground for economic recovery and promoting sustainable and inclusive growth. The IMF team held meetings with President and Finance Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunatillake, Central Bank of Sri Lanka Governor P. Nandalal Veerasinghe, Secretary to the Treasury K.M. Mahinda Siriwardena, and other senior government and CBSL officials. It also met the parliamentarians, representatives from the private sector, civil society organization, and development partners.
By my colleagues here, we have Peter Brewer, Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka at the IMF, and also Masahiro Nozaki, Mission Chief for Sri Lanka. And many of you also know our Sri Lanka resident representative, Tubagus. So for today, I will be moderating the session. As a start, Peter will highlight a few messages, key messages for this mission, and then we will be happy to take your questions. With that, Peter, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us here today and taking the time to engage with us. I'll make a few remarks first, and then we'll open it up for questions. So first, I would like to recognize the severity of the crisis here in Sri Lanka and the disproportionate impact it is having on the poor and vulnerable. Indeed, we have witnessed some of that while here in Colombo. So we came in the spirit to identifying policies that can help address this crisis and have Sri Lanka emerge from it. Secondly, IMF staff and the authorities have reached staff-level agreement to support Sri Lanka's economic policies with a 48-month arrangement under the so-called extended fund facility of about $2.9 billion US. The arrangement is subject to the approval of IMF management and the IMF Executive Board in the period ahead and is contingent on the implementation of a number of so-called prior actions by the authorities, as well as receiving assurances from international partners, including bilateral and private creditors, on their financial commitments in support of the program. Third, the objective of this fund-supported economic program is to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability, while at the same time protecting the vulnerable, safeguarding financial stability, and stepping up structural reforms to address corruption vulnerabilities and unlock Sri Lanka's growth potential in the time ahead. Fourth, the reform program is built on strong policy measures, and I just would like to highlight a few of them here. First, raising government revenue to restore fiscal and debt sustainability and provide the room for necessary fiscal spending. This will help regain confidence in and outside of Sri Lanka. Second, introducing cost recovery pricing for fuel and electricity to minimize the fiscal risks arising from state-owned enterprises. Third, restoring price stability by data-driven monetary policy, fiscal consolidation, and phasing out monetary financing, as well as stronger central bank autonomy. Fourth, rebuilding foreign reserves and safeguarding financial stability. And fifth, strengthening social safety nets to mitigate the impact of the current crisis on the poor and vulnerable. And lastly, reducing corruption vulnerabilities to promote sustainable and inclusive growth. The last substantive point I wanted to make is that really this staff-level agreement is only the beginning of a long road ahead for Sri Lanka to emerge from the crisis. In this context, the authorities have already begun the reform process, and it will be important to continue on this path with determination. The ownership of this process will help ensure their ownership will ensure that the necessary reforms will in fact be carried out. It's also very important to secure the support of all segments of society to allow the country to overcome the challenges so as to secure prosperity in the medium run. Now, because Sri Lanka's debt is assessed to be unsustainable, debt relief from Sri Lanka's creditors will be required to ensure debt sustainability. Having a path to restore debt sustainability, so-called financing assurances, is necessary for approval by the IMF Executive Board. And additional financing from multilateral partners will be needed to close financing gaps. Lastly, we would like to thank the authorities and all of our counterparts in the wider society for the excellent dialogue and warm hospitality, and are looking forward to continue our engagement in support of Sri Lanka and its people.
After the staff level agreement with the IMF, the task ahead for Lanka is tougher. The IMF team made it clear the actual realization of the loan will be tied to willingness of Sri Lanka's external creditors to take haircuts and restructure the terms of repayment in the mutually agreed way. Herein lies the problem. The creditors are a mixed bag of bilateral donors, international funding organizations, and a very large number of private owners of Sri Lanka's international bonds. All of them should agree to a common formula based on transparency. It is not an easy task for the two international companies charged with responsibility to work out such a deal. I hope this information in this video presentation will assist in gathering the latest news about Sri Lanka for a better, sustainable, hopeful future. Because of the disunity and the lack of unanimity in decision-making among the lawmakers, the future for all people in Sri Lanka will be bleak. Also, I thank all those Sydney Sri Lankans attending my felicitation function on the 14th of October. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and goodbye for now.